Okay, so my connector and terminals came in, just wrapping up the PCM connector end installation. So same story as the box. I started running out of black wire, so I had to use several different colors. Not a big deal. I wrote down where they go and what they're for, so it's not a problem. There's obviously the twisted pair wiring here, which is your can low, can high. 3 grounds, a battery constant wire, and an ignition switched wire. So a little tip here for these longer lengths of twisted pair, I like to use a piece of heat shrink at each end to keep them tied together, and so they don't try to knot up on you. Sometimes these try to take a memory and they'll start kind of knotting and coiling up. This keeps them in place and keeps them from unraveling too. These terminals were a pain in the ass, just like the DLC connector. They're really tiny. I didn't have crimpers that fit them particularly well, so I crimped them as best I could, soldered them, and then didn't have any issues. So I was a little worried here. There's technically 2 different sizes of terminals on these. So you can see these larger circular ones at the end, and then there's a whole bunch of smaller ones in the middle. Those are for different size wires, obviously, but the terminals are interchangeable. So I only bought the smaller gauge terminals, and I didn't know that at the time. I didn't even think about it, but they insert perfectly and lock into place in the larger holes as well. So these hole sizes are really just for different wires. The terminals don't seem to have an issue. At least the front of it is identical. And the pin sizes in the PCM are also the same size. So the difference between the 2 different size terminals is strictly the wire gauge end. So either way, once you get these all crimped on, this little gray TPA piece is actually, you can pop this up loose, maybe 1/4 inch. It's not much, it moves up a little. And then you just gently stick these in through the back. You'll hear a click. You pull them back a little bit just to make sure they're locked in place. And once you get done doing all those, you push this back in and lock it all in. So the final piece, this can go sliding on me, is to install this bail latch connector assembly, this little clamshell here. So this is really easy. You install it with the latch closed, and then in the connector body, there's 2 tabs you line up in the base here. See if I can get both these. Yeah, you can kind of see it. So there's 2 slots in the very back. You line those up, and then you just roll this into the front, and there's a larger tab slot here, and it locks in place. And that's it. There's a strain relief zip tie to keep the terminals from pulling out easily. I'm not going to install this just yet. I want to get some braided wire loom and loom all this up first, clean it up, make it look nice and pretty, and then I'll go ahead and I'll finish up the PCM end. And then all that's left to do after that is to install the 5-pin connector that I bought that's going to actually screw into the benchtop programming box that I built. So pretty simple. This is from my original harness. These tabs, the lock tab here is pretty fragile, and I was being a gorilla at the time because it was like 100 degrees in my garage, and I got frustrated. It was being a little rougher with the connector than I should have been, and I broke that tab. So I did buy a new one, but I'm going to put the new one in the actual harness going in the vehicle. I'll just use this for the programming piece, and honestly, it makes it a little easier to get open and close anyway, so probably works out better that way.